For most of us, they're a blur at highway speed, out of the corner of our eye. Places of remembrance, forgotten as soon as we pass by. Yet places never forgotten by those whose loved ones died there.
They may not be sacred for you or me, but it's clearly sacred for the family of the victim and friends of the family.
Photographer Thomas Farella has spent more than 20 years of his life photographing memorials to those who suffered a tragic death.
These things, if they're not maintained by families and friends, they're going to just dissolve into the landscape. The photographs keep the memory alive.
He's photographed nearly 100 roadside memorials all across Wisconsin. He uploads the photos onto his website, where the images are preserved and where family members can post memories.
It was a yellow light, and the motorist didn't see him at all, and it was a horrible accident, and here we are, remembering him.
Since 2013, John Prim's family has decorated the ghost bike left in his son Brendan's memory. It's captured in Farella's photographs.
Even when this bike is gone, that memorial will live on through the wonderful work of the photography that he's done.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, my perfect angel is what you are. This poem is so personal. The volatility with these sites, the personal nature of them, you know, the power behind them is very impressive. And it's not so much the photography, it's really the stories that are behind them. This is probably 30 feet of fresh flowers. I've never seen anything quite like this.
When time takes over, when the flowers fade away, the photos will remain.
It keeps the memories alive on a more permanent level because these things are going to dissolve.
Memorials can also serve as important reminders.
I've been photographing this site for, oh my God, 5+ years.
20-year-old Jonathan Wilson was murdered on this spot on Troy Drive in 2011, an act of gang violence.
I tell that story as often as I can because it's so important.
A crime that led the police department to assign David Dexheimer as neighborhood officer. He looks after the memorial site and even got a local nursery to plant a tree in Wilson's memory here, hoping to also plant a seed of peace.
The potential for the same thing to happen is right there. And that's the other reason these things have to be important, because kids grow up, they don't remember this, they don't know about this, and it's like, no, the reality is if you are messing with guns and fighting and all of that, we could be planting a tree for you.
What inspired Thomas Farella to start this? In 1991, 2 girls were hit and killed in front of Madison East High School. Dr. Thomas Farella was working as an ER physician and treated one of those girls before she died. He was moved by their roadside memorial.
Ever since I stopped at that site, I realized there was something powerful about these places.
Now retired, Dr. Farella is still trying to help others heal.
Eventually, you know, nature's going to take its course and people are going to forget, but the photography and the website will always be there.
Spend time with Fred Lydell.
Well, it's better than walking.
And it won't surprise you that his favorite book as a boy was The Little Engine That Could.
I know I can, I know I can.
It truly shows dedication for him to ride his bike, rain, sleet, snow, whatever it is. Unless there's like a snow emergency out, he makes it on his bike twice a week.
The kindergartners at Madison's Shank Elementary School call him Grandpa Fred.
Hi, Grandpa Fred. Who do you need first?
Austin.
All right.
Hi, Austin.
And like any good grandpa,
I've got a bunch of books there. Which would you like me to read?
this senior volunteer
XYZ. And the sun goes down on the coconut tree.
knows how much kids love to have a story read to them.
It's part of growing up. They think someday I'll be able to do this.
The kids just love hearing from him.
Chicka chicka boom boom. There's the whole alphabet.
With Grandpa Fred, they're reading for fun, and they really just enjoy, sitting back and hearing a story. And they don't all have the opportunity for that at home, so it's a great opportunity for them to have it here.
Just part of my life. Hi, Destiny. The kids are so nice.
We just really appreciate him.
Got a bunch of books there. Which would you like me to read? Keisha and Carlos.
The kids keep Grandpa Fred young at heart.
Yeah.
And it's been quite a while since he was a youngster himself.
Can you find your name in there someplace?
That didn't stop him from skydiving very late in life.
94.
And that was nearly 7 years ago. Grandpa Fred Lydell will be 101 next month.
I would not be able to deal with kindergartners at 100, I don't think. He's got just amazing dedication. He just really enjoys being here.
And there's a little dog whose name is Spot. But they have to stay active. That's one good way of staying active.
So it beats sitting at home and watching Price is Right, huh?
Yeah, it sure does. I go down the hall and everybody seems to know me. And it's hi, Grandpa Fred, hugs. Inside the eggs, the babies get bigger.
The joy this century-old senior gets reading to kids in the later chapters of his own life
And that's the end of that book,
will keep him coming back.
as long as I'm able.
Born when steam engines still rode the rails, Grandpa Fred still has plenty of steam left himself. Just like the little engine that could.
I'm actually playing a 45 in here. So
Every Saturday night at the same time,
fired up.
John McDonald takes his listeners back in time.
I'm Rockin' John, and it's time for rock and roll.
Take out the papers and the trash.
His show on WORT-FM features the music radio stations played all the time when John was young,
Don't you give me no dirty looks.
but rarely played today.
One of the greatest lines in a record ever.
Ain't got time to take a ride. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Rockin' John describes his show as
Public service for oldies fanatics.
he started spinning records here at WORT way back when they were still records.
Well, I tell them I was on the radio before CDs were invented. 41 years.
In 1975, John answered WORT's ad in the paper looking for DJs.
I took a bag of 45s in and showed it to the staff, and they said, you got a show. We didn't have a building yet. And here's a single, a 45. I bought this back in 1968. It's a band from Chicago called The Mods. This is Soul Drippin'.
Just about every Saturday night since, his unforgettable voice
And you're listening to I Like It Like That with me, Rockin' John.
has graced WORT's airwaves.
I tell people I went to a cheap broadcasting school and my voice ended up sounding like this.
Over all of those 41 years,
Hello, Wart.
all of those Saturday nights,
Your request is coming up in about 5 minutes.
Rockin' John McDonald hasn't been paid a dime. He's a volunteer.
It's work putting it together, but this is fun. And we heard Gene's on the Jukebox in 1985, and if Gene isn't on the jukebox, he should be.
Playing the music of his youth always seems to make Rockin' John feel like a kid again.
How old are you, John?
71.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I tell people I'm 17 in reverse. I've always wondered what's going to happen, when people my age ain't here anymore.
But Rockin' John will be here every Saturday night.
So I can't do it no more. I'm going to keep on rolling. And it's time to take a trip through the Rockin' John Time Tunnel. How about a bit of Motown?
We've actually known each other since we were kids, and we've been best friends and in each other's lives for way, way longer than those 4 years.
Lee Steinhorst always knew his childhood friend Jessica was the woman he wanted to spend his life with.
We always joke that he knew even before me that we were meant to be together.
He'd never been one to wear jewelry, but he told Jessica 2 weeks before they married he couldn't wait to wear his wedding ring for the rest of his life.
I just felt like that was a connection of our love, and anybody who knew me and Lee and knew how he felt knew that he loved me fiercely.
Jessica had made such an imprint on Lee's life, he wanted her fingerprint on the inside of his ring, a part of her always with him.
And that ring just symbolized that connection we had to me, that love that he had for me that I never have to question.
Okay, start pedaling.
Together, they were raising 3 children, including their newborn boy, Apollo, when their lives took a tragic turn on a rural highway last June.
There was just a lot of kind of the world stopping.
Driving home early in the morning from an overnight work shift, Lee was killed on Highway 61 when his vehicle drifted across the center line into the path of a semi.
I miss that person that loved me unconditionally, and I miss the father of my children, and knowing that they're not gonna have those memories with him, and they're not gonna know the just truly caring and loving person that he was.
They didn't find Lee's wedding ring at the crash scene, something that made saying a final goodbye at the funeral home even more difficult.
He wasn't wearing it, and it just didn't look like my husband without it. Like, it was just a part of us that was together.
From the moment that Jessica called, you could just tell how important the ring was to her.
A few months later, Jessica heard about Dan Reckley and how he uses a metal detector to find lost rings.
I tried to not give her hope, you know, because I knew how long of a shot this was, but you could tell that she wanted to try.
With thick grass and all of the debris along a busy highway, finding that small lost ring wasn't going to be easy.
Right around here, we started to lose a little bit of hope. There was just a little bit of grass left to search, and I, was methodically searching, making sure we didn't miss any spot, and then I saw that little bit of a rim of the ring that's just, you know what it is. And when I reached down and saw the fingerprint on the inside of the ring, there was no doubt that that was Lee's ring. And that's when I knew. To be able to return that ring to her was something I'll never forget.
It's special, and it just means so much that someone would do that to bring me closer to someone that I lost.
At a time when her life had been torn apart, Jessica could once again hold the symbol of the day she and Lee were joined together.
There's just points where I feel really lost and disconnected, and holding this is just a constant reminder that he loved me and that I'm still connected to him somehow.
Dan Reckley has now helped people find 65 lost rings, and he says this was by far the most emotional return of a ring he's ever experienced. And he also helped set up a GoFundMe account for Lee and Jessica's 3 young children to help cover the costs of their educations. If you'd like to contribute, you can find a link to that GoFundMe account and to Dan's website on this story at NBC15.com.